Hi folks, welcome back to the channel. I'm Steve. Oh, it's hot today in Spain. Boiling hot. I've come to the top, I'll show you. I've come to the top of a hill because there's a nice cool breeze. Right, this video. Now, a topic that I get asked often is about loneliness and making friends here in Spain and how difficult or easy it is. And in this video, I'm going to tackle that head on, using myself as an example. But before I get started, there's something I want to say to anyone worried about maybe arriving here and not meeting anyone. Of all the places I've ever lived, nowhere has ever come close to how easy it is to make friends here in Spain. It's almost unavoidable. So I'm going to go into details. I'm going to give you 5 examples, but be sure, even if you're a very shy person, you will never find it easier, in my opinion, anywhere else. And you know, there's many reasons for this, but by far the number one reason is that there are so many expats here in Spain and places like Spain who also are looking to make friends and want to make friends. And therefore, so many ways have been created naturally to do just that. Right, let's get into it. So first of all, let's bust a myth. When a lot of people imagine moving abroad, one of the first maybe fears that hits would usually be around things like bureaucracy and money, banking, that sort of thing. But honestly, one of the biggest hidden fears, the one people often only ask me about in private messages, is loneliness. Fear of coming here and not meeting friends. And the image people who think like that have is them arriving in Spain, unpack your case, get your apartment sorted out, sit in your balcony with a beer or a Coke and some sunshine, well, plenty of sunshine, and then think, okay, what now? Who am I going to talk to? So I want to bust that myth straight away. Here in Spain, you're not walking into an empty room. You're walking into a place full of people who have made the same leap that you have, or you're planning on doing, or you're hoping to do. People who are actively looking to meet new friends. Right, so getting into my 5 points. First one, and this in my opinion is the safest and easiest way to meet people, and it was the route I took. Join a club. Clubs give you structure. You don't need to be the life and soul of the party or have to come up with small talk. You're there to share or enjoy a hobby, and many times that's a new hobby. For example, I play in a local pool team. I didn't know a single person when I joined, but now it's about 70% of my circle of friends, and we meet once or twice a week, every week. And the funny thing is, the friendship part sneaks up on you. I remember the first night I walked in, I knew one person who was a subscriber in my channel who had invited me, and a whole room of people I didn't know, but it just wasn't difficult. People were very friendly. People understand that you're there for the first time. They know you're probably going to be a bit awkward or shy, but all of a sudden, maybe 1 week in, when you're just the name on a score sheet, you'll find yourself laughing, maybe being talked into having a drink after. Next thing you know, there's somebody you're getting friendly with and the odd bit of texting starts. That's just how it happens. The next one, I suppose, because I went down the pool route, this is what I did as well. It's get involved in sports. And Spain, tourist areas, well, Spain all over I think, is a great place for sports. Football, paddle tennis, petanque, bowls, pool, snooker. There's everything you could possibly enjoy. And here in Spain, you don't have to be competitive. Many of the teams in sports are really more about the social side than the actual score. And I've personally met people who admit they just joined the pool team for the bar afterwards. And that's fine. The important part is being around people regularly, creating a social life for yourself or yourselves. Volunteering is another great way to meet people, as well as being very rewarding. And from what I understand, this is where some of the strongest friendships are created. People who volunteer in animal sanctuaries and organisations that help people. And charities, for example, rely heavily on expats. And there's food banks and fundraising events. So many ways to get involved. And I spent a lot of 20 years in a youth group as a volunteer, and I know the benefits. It's a fantastic feeling when you know you're doing some good, when you're helping out, and bonds happen very easily. And those sort of things are great levelers, because very quickly you're not just the new expat or shy one, you become part of the team, and conversation just grows from there. Next, taking classes. I've considered this. I was going to take Spanish classes, but I'm too old to learn. But there's every class under the sun in Spain. Cooking, Spanish, snorkeling, climbing, and classes are perfect because you're all starting together. You're all the new person in the room, and you'll find groups everywhere in every town, not just on the coast, and you'll see them advertised in bars, on the walls, in cafes and restaurants, Facebook groups. And the best thing is, because you're all new, you don't really have to think of what to say on your first night. The class gives you the subject, and the chats just start gradually happening around it. And another way, I mean, I could list off other ways, of course. There are many ways to meet people in places like Spain, but this is one that I find gets overlooked. It's just going to the same places regularly. And I think this is massively underrated. You know, find a coffee shop, a bar, even the same spot on the promenade where people gather, and go often. First week, maybe you'll feel invisible. That's okay, feeling invisible is good. Maybe in the second week, you'll recognise somebody and there'll be a nod. Third week, someone says hello, you start having a chat. And then, of course, by going all the time, before long, you're just part of the furniture. And that's when the conversation really begins. That's where you're most liable to make friendships. And it's really how Spain works for expats. Regular faces become familiar, and familiar faces gradually become friends. Now, I'm going to talk in this next couple of minutes about what it's like for people who are really shy, people who really struggle. Because I know some of you are already thinking, this sounds terrifying, putting yourself into groups of strangers. But there are tricks, and here are a few tricks that work. Go along, just observe. If you decide to, you can maybe ask someone something about what it is that you're observing. As I said earlier, choose something structured, like a class or a team, where the conversation just happens naturally, instead of needing to be forced. Or use the ask for help trick. I've done this many times. This was said to me whenever I was quite young, and I do it all the time. I go to Thailand a lot, and every time you go, you're in a different area, you don't know anybody. So the ask someone a question trick is very, very useful. And it could be as simple as, excuse me, could you tell me where such and such a place is? So let's say, for example, you ask somebody about any coffee shop or a particular coffee shop, and as soon as they're interested to give you an answer, you know, you get a positive vibe from them. Ask them, is the coffee nice in there? And that's it, you've broken the ice. That person will respond, and very easy to get into conversations. Maybe even invite that person for a coffee. Another one would be if you go to a pool team to just observe, just someone who's not playing, who's watching, ask them about rules of the game and stuff like that. Asking questions is always a great way to get conversation started. People love to help, people love to give advice, and most times it creates conversation without awkwardness. But let me say something more personal at this point, because if you're truly shy, you might be thinking, yeah, well, that's all fair and well for other people, but I don't think for me, I couldn't do that. Well, there's something I've learned in life, and if you haven't heard this yourself, I'm passing it on to you now. You're not the only shy one. There are lots of shy people everywhere you go, and a lot of people just get very good at hiding it. Sometimes the person who looks like the most confident in the room is wishing someone else would break the ice and talk to them. And if you realised how many people in a gathering are in the same position or the same boat, you'd relax a bit, wouldn't you? Because you really and genuinely are not the odd one out, however it may seem that way. Also, most of us think our own hesitation or shyness stands out a mile. We imagine everyone notices when we sit quietly or we're feeling awkward. But honestly, most people, they're wrapped up way too much in their own lives to notice. The little things you're worried about won't enter most other people's heads. And here's one of the best parts about moving somewhere new like Spain. It's a fresh start. Nobody knows you. That's really an advantage. Back home, you might very well have been the quiet one in your circle. But here, nobody knows that. You can show up however you like, and people will just accept you for who you are now. And that really is a gift worth thinking about. Finally, everybody, don't wait for a big moment. Friendships here, like anywhere, usually start small. A smile, a nod at a cafe, asking a teammate a simple question. You know, another thing I've learned over the years, you know, when you go out on a big night out, maybe you don't know a lot of people, but you start to have a drink and then another drink, and then you're really happy, and then you have a brilliant night with a couple of people, and it's just, oh my God, they're like your best friends ever. Most of the time, you never see them again. Well, it was just entertainment, fake, not reality. So, all the things I've talked about, taking all those tiny steps, they grow, and they grow into bigger ones. The truth is, most people will be delighted if you reach out, because they're likely looking for exactly the same thing you are. Connection. Now, one other thing that I do get asked a lot, do you need to be able to speak Spanish to have a social life here? And the answer is no, not really. Depends on what you want. If you want to go and mix and go to Spanish nights, then yes. But then I imagine if you did that, you'd be the type of person who can already speak Spanish. In these expat heavy areas, it isn't needed. You can build a full circle of English speaking, different nationalities, but English speaking friends, really without having a word of Spanish. But I will be honest, even a little effort goes a long way. Very few people here ever do learn Spanish. But learning the basics, greetings, ordering a drink, thanking somebody, that'll open doors. That'll make locals that you get used to seeing more respectful of you, and they'll appreciate it. And I use a lot of Spanish words. One of the funny things is whenever you go into a supermarket, the first word I use to the teller will always be in English, because if I say Spanish, a Spanish word like hola, they think you're Spanish and they start talking to you in Spanish. So you say hello, but then everything else, I've learnt words and I know the word for bag, give me a bag, carrier bag, and I know the thank you and all that sort of stuff. So I'll then do that in Spanish, and I think it's appreciated. So let's recap my 5, what I'll call entry points. Clubs, joining a club, sports, playing a sport, especially learning to play a new sport with new people, volunteering, or becoming a regular somewhere. So even if you're shy, try just 1 or 2 of these, and you will be amazed at how quickly your circle grows. Whenever I arrived, I'm a very independent person. I'm very happy and content in my own company. So and during lockdown, everybody was saying they were bored. I loved it. It was just fantastic. But whenever I came here for my first year, I moved to Guadalmar, which is more of a Spanish town. And I was happy initially with not really talking to too many people, but it caught up with me, and it's why whenever I had to go home and look after my dad because he wasn't well, when I came back, I specifically came to Torrevieja, because no matter how independent you are, Spain is a country you spend a lot of time outside, and a lot of time you want to be occupied, and meeting friends becomes, I think, very important. And I'll add this one thing, don't overthink it. You're living a new life, relax, chill out. If you go out the first few nights and there's nothing, there's no chatting, there's nobody, just enjoy it, it'll happen. Friendships here in Spain are often built on small, repeated moments. A quick hola or hello, it's me showing off my Spanish. A chat after a class, having a coffee with someone at the same cafe every morning. You don't need to reinvent yourself, but it is your new life. You'll probably not be on this earth a terrible lot longer. So stop worrying about what people think, or try to. I always say this, remember, your brain, it's a memory machine, a learning machine. If you come to Spain and start being more adventurous with talking or start going out more, it becomes your second nature. Your brain thinks that, well, that's what we're doing now. That's the way it is. I'm not shy anymore. I go out and meet people. But it takes a bit of time. Be positive and your brain will become positive. Moan about everything, your brain will moan about everything and you'll be unhappy. Right? So that's it for this one. I'm boiling hot. I don't know what I would have done without this wee breeze, but isn't it wonderful? How lucky am I to be living like this? It's a Tuesday morning and I'm sitting on top of a hill talking to you guys in the sun. Fantastic. Now, let me know in the comments how you have met friends in Spain, how you deal with meeting people. Or if you're not here yet, do you like these ideas? Which ones are you going to try? Or do you think they're unrealistic? And as usual, if you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up. It helps the channel so much. And don't forget to subscribe if you want to see more of my videos. And subscribing, in case you don't know, it's free and it only takes 1 second. It's only one click away right now. But until next time, bye for now.